Loose change for getting down. It's Friday and I'm on fire, and I know that I'll break your heart, and I'm sorry, I'm just so tired. 'Cause these cars are just it, so won't you?
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. Tonight, we have a special guest with us, but let me go ahead and introduce you. My partner in crime over here, we have Mr. Big B. Big B, how are you doing tonight, my man?
Man, I'm doing great. Just got done doing On Deck an hour ago, so got to talk sports there and get to come back and talk about some more great sports, wrestle with my buddies.
Absolutely. And then welcome in our special guest for the evening. He goes by Warren Morlow, and he has Buzzing with Morlow. That is his podcast. So, Warren, how are you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, Ace, it's been a long time, man. I'm glad to be back. I'm just really happy to talk about wrestling.
All right, absolutely. And then, of course, welcome in our other partner in crime for the evening. That's right, Will from Top Rope Collectibles. Will, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. How's everybody doing? Hope everything's going okay out there. I heard from Joe a little while ago. He's not feeling real well, so he's not going to be on. Just got done with another tremendous live sale. You know, Tuesday nights are just hopping one thing after another. So we just finished the sale, jumped on here. Looking forward to talking some wrestling with you guys. Welcome, Marlo. Nice to meet you. And looking forward to covering some great topics. I know we have a great show lined up for tonight. So without any further ado, let's roll.
All right. So Alex Romero saying good evening to all. What's up, Alex? We hope you're having a good night. And then Thomas Burnett, good evening. How's it going?
What's
and
up,
then
Thomas?
Roger Cooper. What's up, guys? What is up? Hope you're having a fantastic night. So why don't we go ahead and jump into it here? So Big B, did you get a chance to watch AEW?
No, not this past week. Just been dealing with some work issues, so I did miss it.
So, Warren, how about you? Did you get a chance to check out AEW this past Wednesday?
More than I want to sometimes, but yeah.
All right. So, do you want to just kind of give us a little recap of what you saw from AEW and kind of your thoughts?
I mean, it's a hit or miss on most shows. I mean, we've seen a lot of fantasy matches on free television lately, and I mean, it's always good to see new competition and stuff like that. But yeah, a marquee standpoint for a promoter standpoint, I'm always putting the big money matches on pay-per-views to sell your tickets and stuff like that. So I kind of know that's the only thing I could really address with that.
All right. Right. So I think a lot of people.
I'll go ahead and kind of cut to the chase with the AEW, because last week we went like 22 minutes on AEW, and it definitely didn't deserve 22 minutes. But the cut to the chase on AEW, the biggest story coming out of AEW right now, in the ring, is probably Thunder Rosa. You know, she was involved in that whole situation with Ivelisse last year, and Ivelisse ended up getting released from AEW. Now they're claiming since she and I believe the story 100%. I don't think any of it's false. They're claiming that she's sandbagging matches. She's kind of letting being signed to AEW and being world champion go to her head. She definitely needs to realize that it can all end like that. It all started like that just because they bought her out of her Ring of Honor contract or her NWA contract or whatever it may have been. It can all end very, very quickly. And she is obviously proving quickly that she is not the face of AEW. Even though, CM Punk's a huge name, in my opinion, and from the fan perspective, I honestly believe that Britt Baker is the face of AEW. And, to just put it out there, Thunder Rosa is just a placeholder right now for Britt Baker's belt, because obviously I think it's going to go back to Britt. And, I had a personal experience when I met Thunder Rosa one-on-one, and I wasn't really a big fan of her in person. And now they're saying that working with her is becoming a toxic environment. And I personally believe it. So take that for what you will. Second huge. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely agree with you on that. To where typically when you look at like the face of a company, usually everyone's like, "Oh, it's like a guy's the face of the company." I'll tell you, when I look at AEW, like people talk about Britt Baker more than almost anybody. Yeah. So I'm telling you, I truly agree with you.
Huh? Yeah.
She is stuffed down your throats a lot more though. And I mean, the thing with Thunder Rosa. So we're basically calling her the new John Cena of AEW type scenario. Like, how many people had so many backlash talking about how bad Cena was and how Cena done this. It's just the name of the game. You know what you're promoting, you know what you're doing. And yes, I agree with what he said about Thunder Rosa. Like Thunder Rosa, I mean, I've seen it numerous times in the indies where people get the title and it goes way to their head. They feel like they are completely untouchable. And I've seen the match that she did with Marina Shafir. That one was the main one that I was just like, come on, man, like stop, like give a good match. Like you're the baby face. Like you're supposed to be the one where the crowd's invested in cheering for you. Instead, we're getting these lackluster promos that she's went way overdone with. It's just, I mean,
what surprised
you gotta know your worth. You gotta know your worth.
What surprised me the most though with her promos is, Dustin Rhodes was a huge part of her training and bringing her in and everything else. And
he was big on her getting the title too.
Yeah, so you can say whatever you want about Dustin. He's had his issues over the years, but Dustin could cut a hell of a promo. I think back to 1994 with Dustin Rhodes in the ring, going into Fall Brawl 94 with his dad and the Nasty Boys against the Bunkhouse. I can't remember what they called him, Colonel Parker Stable or whatever it was.
Yep,
it was Bunkhouse Buck and Terry Funk and all those guys. And if you think of some of those promos that Dustin cut back then, and he was just really a kid back then. You're talking 28 years ago, 27 years ago. So, and he was a child back then, basically, and he was cutting hella good promos then. Then he goes over and takes the Goldust character in WWF, which in reality I think started out as like a joke. We're going to make this guy a joke. We put his dad in polka dots. We're making this guy appear to be a homosexual in, the silk gold costume with a gold wig. And the guy took it and really embraced it and became a hell of a character, became an Intercontinental Champion within like 5 or 6 months of being with the company, held the title for a while, did all kinds of amazing things and had a hell of a career there, and then he's here now helping her and helping these other young ladies and these other young people develop, and especially with promos. So there's no excuse whatsoever for any talent that he's kind of mentoring to not be able to cut some good promos.
I definitely agree with you. We have some comments that are rolling in right now where Thomas Glenn is saying, I have heard she's a very stiff worker. Thomas Burnett is also saying Dr. Baker is the face of AEW. Larry saying, what's up, everybody? What's going on? So Alex Romero saying, me and Morlow and Blackheart talked about this yesterday, and you're right.
Alex Coquito, that's right. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, so he's saying you guys talked about this, and you're absolutely right. But Roger's saying that he's the natural for a reason. Yeah. And I definitely agree with you. People give him a lot of flack, but there's a lot of younger guys that he's helped in this industry too. So, and I think we overlook that.
I agree.
I mean, if you think of promos, man, I'm thinking NWA promos more than anybody.
Yeah.
Like those were the ones that I like when I first started wrestling, like I came up with this character that I needed to be in a mask, and it was called American Project. Obviously, that's a typical USA character. You could do it anywhere. Fans are gonna love it regardless. It's a superhero type thing. But I changed it up. Instead of me walking around carrying a flag, I put it on my hands, and I wanted to learn how to do promos. Like I looked at um, Tim Horner, Brad Armstrong. Like those were just to name a few of those type of promos I was looking at. That attitude, because back in the day with that character, you're looking at just screaming at the microphone like Kyle Hogan and all them crazy son of guns used to do.
Yeah.
Just kind of like get that feeling. You want to have that feel for those promos. I've never had a touchy feeling with any of the females promos when it comes to the AEW roster. Like I think the only one comes close was probably Britt's. And she wasn't even trying that time. She was trying to build on heat, and the fans got adapted to her like it was a babyface promo. And it's like those things is what it needs. You need that feel to it. The honeymoon stages is over. You need to get this thing going. Like y'all have way too many of a roster to have the things that y'all are going with. And I mean, I think they've got way too big of a roster right now for a company that's only been there for 3 years.
Can I ask one question? One question, just real quick in the middle. MJF, work or shoot? I want to say it's a work just because I think it's to get the ratings for Warner.
Me too.
And it was definitely trying to get that publicity up. I mean, we've seen it with Brian Pillman. I literally thought of that first thing when this came up. Yeah. But he knows his worth, and he deserves more money. And I am fully on board with him getting more money on this. If that's the case, yes, pay this man. Like, he's being paid under the NXT average contract right now. Like, come on. He's like the only guy who really is getting you so invested into these shows. Like, Ace, I know you're a big fan of this guy, and we've talked about this a long time. He's the only thing that's made Punk relevant since he's been in AEW, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Right. Oh, yeah. I agree.
I think we're on board with Punk being a huge disappointment.
Oh man, I got a few unsubscribers last time I made that comment. So. I was curious what kind of pipe bomb I was about to drop in here. You know, I dropped that issue. I looked at my thing. That thing said from almost 300 subscribers to drop down to like 285. I was like, gosh.
I know. I think we're all on board with that. That it's been a huge letdown. And then you got Tony Khan out there throwing this huge temper tantrum on the media, the press stage, trying to defend anything of CM Punk.
Don't get me started with him.
When regardless, I mean, I don't think you can really say that CM Punk has really drawn. The thing that's really helping them is they only got the 4 or 5 main shows a year that they do the pay-per-views, and then the last pay-per-view by, correct me if I'm wrong, was like 200,000 Ace. So 200,000. So you're not even talking the equivalent of like a bad SummerSlam. A bad SummerSlam had more pay-per-view buys in the past than the current AEW top pay-per-views. So that's just a little thought, food for thought there. One other thing I want to jump into real quick, because here we are 14 minutes in AEW.
Right, again.
And it definitely isn't worth it, I can tell you. But, of course, outside the ring, you got everything going on right now with Jeff. Absolutely terrible. Here's the thing. Everybody can sit back and talk and make fun of them and joke about it and everything else. And of course, I think that's human nature. Some of us do that stuff, and it's not meant in ill will, but, alcoholism, any kind of an addiction like that, it's a sickness. It's a mental thing. And, you wouldn't make fun of somebody that was mentally challenged or Down syndrome or even epileptic. You wouldn't make fun of people like that. But yet, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not, cleansing myself. I'm guilty of all that stuff too. But yet we're all memeing and making fun of Jeff and watching the video and laughing about him getting arrested and all this stuff. It's terrible. I had the privilege last year and the year before, I believe it was. I know for sure last year, at least a half a dozen times, I was able to talk to Jeff and see Jeff and I got a lot of stuff signed. I did a lot of signings and stuff with him. Great guy, down to earth. I mean, literally, I think if I said, I want the shirt off your back, I think he would have handed it to me. Again, I think as a fan perspective, there's a lot of spoiled brats out there, and there's a lot of disrespectful people. And I'm not getting off into a rant, guys, I promise. But, you got to think about the respect that we show these people. We love them, we watch them, we worship the stuff that they do in the rings, whether, we know it or not. We follow every little thing that they do. And then when something bad happens or something stupid happens, we're the first one out there posting memes, talking about. There was a meme, and I think I even shared it in the Mania group. I don't remember if I did, but I think I did with all of us in the chat, where it was a meme. It had Uso, Sonny, and Jeff Hardy driving the car.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
And it's like, man, we got to do better from a fan perspective. We got to do better from a people perspective to make fun of addictions and stuff like that. Right now, especially in this country, everybody's screaming, we need more mental health, help, and we need more of this and we need more of that. But when it comes down to it, obviously no one's actually doing the stuff they need to do. It's just a bunch of talk, and that's where
it's just a like on the screen, man. It's literally everyone's talking about just trying to get a one like on a social media, try to be that bigger guy every time.
It's sad because addiction is definitely a mental health illness, and it's a real illness. It's not something, I've been very, very fortunate. I've never been an alcoholic. I've never really been a drug user. I mean, in high school, I did stupid shit, but, I think everybody did for the most part. But I can understand the perspective of it because, we all have different things in our life that challenge us. And I think more from the fan perspective and from the adult perspective, we should be looking at it like, somebody please help him before he can't be helped, and he's going to end up being, another one of these tragic stories. And it's horrible because if you ever met the man, if you ever met him in person, and you spent 5 minutes or more talking to the guy, he is just as cool as you and your buddy. I mean, he literally would probably join in right here and talk with us. So again, guys, I'm not trying to rant. I just want to throw that out there. I know we're all guilty of it, including me, but it's not a laughing matter. It's a horrible thing. The guy has a wife. The guy has children. So just something to take into perspective. Go ahead. Back to you, Ace Mania.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was simply, and you know what? I agree with you on all that stuff, and just a few of the comments that I saw come on Facebook to where people were blaming Matt Hardy and being like, Matt Hardy's enabler because he was allowing it to happen. He lied to everybody, about Jeff being clean or whatever. We don't know if Matt actually knew, that's the thing. But we don't know. And then there was other comments I read to where, they were kind of blaming the cops, being like, it's the cops' fault. If they would have left him alone and wouldn't have stopped him and arrested him, we wouldn't have had this problem. And the ladder match would still be on. I'm like, really? Right now you're concerned about a freaking ladder match and you're not concerned about Jeff's health? I mean...
So that's another thing. We can't blame our cops in our society for things that people do. There are bad cops out there, but there's a hell of a lot more good cops out there. And you cannot blame the Florida Highway Patrol for stopping someone after they received 3 or 4 911 calls saying this car is all over the road. That's why we have police. That's why we have a civilized society. So anybody that wants to blame police, that's absolutely asinine.
Sad thing is him and Matt both were in Jacksonville, not even Saturday.
Yeah, and Anai is saying, but I don't understand is I was with Jeff not even 45 minutes before he left. We were there all night together at the signing in Orlando, and it's over there's a water all night, so I don't get what happened, where it happened, and I'm baffled. There was a lot of places that he probably could have stopped in between, and it could have happened there. Big B, we haven't really heard from you. What's your opinion on this one?
Well, I'm with everybody. I mean, we can't shed light or make fun of it. I mean, a lot of people are with the memes and stuff. Will made great points. It's an addiction, just like everything else. I mean, heck, I can't stop eating. I got a M&M's right here. I'm 400 some pounds. I'm having a hard time, working on my weight myself. I mean, I just hope Jeff gets help. I hope, somewhere he realizes it. Well, I know you talked great about him the times you met him and stuff, and I think he's a great person. I mean, yes, it's a hard addiction. I mean, to get over, I've seen friends and family battle it, drugs and alcohol, and it's tough. I mean, so to me, the video came out middle of the day. I thought he got arrested late at night after midnight. That's why it kind of threw me off a little bit that video was out there. So I thought maybe it was a different video, but I just hope he gets help before he does something to himself or others. I know a lot of people are poking fun at WWE and saying they could have stopped him or gave him help or what do we think now? But you can offer help if nobody wants to take it. They're not going to take it. I just hope Jeff somewhere down the road.
There's two parts to that though too. There's the offering help and making sure that you actually have the ability to hand that over. And then there's the empty gesture of if you ever need anything, just let me know.
Yep.
Because look, that's a lesson you learn in life as an adult. Everybody that says that means very well, but only about 5 or 10% actually mean what they're saying when they tell you if you ever need anything, let me know. Because if you've ever dealt with mental depression, anxiety, anything like that, and these are all major topics in our world and our country today, people do not understand it. It's not a sickness that you can see. You can't see someone being depressed. You can't see someone's anxiety, but you can see when they get sloppy drunk and fall down, or they shoot across 3 or 4 lanes of traffic on I-95, in a white Dodge Charger. You know what I mean? You can see that physically, but you can't see what's going on in them that led them to it. So, and I know Ace, you and I have covered this, Big B, you and I have covered this. Hell, I think one night it was just me and Big B on here talking, and it went down this whole path, and I don't want that to happen, but, there's 2 different types of help. One is the, sincere, let's get you some help, and let's really work on this, and there's some programs out there, and then there's the empty gesture, which is probably about 95% of the anything I can ever do, let me know. Because I guarantee you, the 4 of us right here talking, and everybody in the chat right now has experienced if you ever need anything, just let me know. And then if you ever needed anything, then the people that are actually there is very, very thin. So back to you, Ace.
Well, yeah, I was saying, I think that the thing that really got me, that really, really bugged me about it, is when I actually saw a comment to where somebody actually left a post on like the AEW thing and said, look, I bought tickets and I want to know, is the ladder match still on? Like, I want to know. You're not telling me. I bought tickets and I want to know because I'm getting screwed over. And I'm like, really?
Card subject to change.
You're concerned about a dang ladder match when you're not even concerned about a guy's health? I'm like, that is the type of fan base that I'm talking about that become toxic, that we're like, why are fans like this?
I could go on a rampage talking about how wrestling is the most toxic fan base of all time. I've sat here and said it since day one. I mean, the adrenaline is amazing. The crowd reactions are amazing. When you go through a curtain, there's no experience like it, period. But one thing I learned in my short tenured year, I mean, I only wrestled for 6 years due to an injury, whatever it was, that pop is temporary. Your body, that's not bulletproof. And and here's a great example. We talk about the AEW things, but here's my thing. I'm old school. What Jeff did in WWE is still a little shocking to me that he just walked out of a match and not finished. That's where you should have known there was something wrong from the get-go. Because honestly, if anybody wants to really throw shots at WWE did not book Jeff Hardy to go outrageously and do outrageous matches every single night. Ever since he's been on AEW, I've literally seen him do a swanton bomb at least 5 to 6 times a week. And I've sat here and said it. I really thought when Jeff was released, regardless of what the situation was, take a year off. Take a year off. Your bumps, you got to trim it down. And he should know this. He's been in that old school mentality. He's and this shows that right here, he needs this. This is what he needs. Or he's not a crazy, like where he doesn't lose his mind. Like a great example, Ric Flair. Ric Flair is now coming back out of retirement just so he could get that one more match, that little stint of him to be able to be the Nature Boy, because
I'll be
he
there.
feels like the crowd doesn't know who he is and see him in the ring, and that's just the thing that they see. And it's just like you could tell that because I've seen it in every single wrestler. Every single wrestler, you live for those moments. If you haven't checked out my last episode, somebody poked at me through the beginning episode to the end and got me to do exactly what he's been wanting at day one, to come out of retirement and come and fight somebody, because you miss it. It doesn't matter of what thing is. That wrestling persona is always in you. You don't know how to get rid of it or how to leave it. And those things, and with those bumps and stuff, the way it was doing. And I saw that match with Darby. That's a great example, which even though Jeff was almost about to kill himself on 2 swantons when he did in just an original match, I sat there and said, he's either back on drugs or he is heavily drinking, because there is no way he's blocking out that pain right now, because he barely even looked like he was in the match sometimes when he was doing these stints. And then when I saw that they were announcing a ladder match, I'm just like, oh man, Jeff, like, bro, you can't keep doing this stuff, man. You gotta ease it, bro.
Ace, we gotta cover some of these comments too, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Great comments. Great comments.
Yeah. So Thomas is saying, bottom line, Vince and Tony will pay for Jeff's treatment. Vince has paid for Sonny 4 times.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, so there's at least 4 times there. Thomas is saying, Preacher will right on. Randy Cox saying, depression and anxiety sucks. I have issues with those all the time. I hope Jeff does get help. Thomas also saying, I walk the walk and talk the talk. I wished I was around Jeff and talk straight with him. And then Anai saying, because people and fans are inconsiderate, which I definitely agree with that one.
That comment is from LA Smooth. That's LA Smooth commenting.
Yep.
And then Jemai saying, I see the toxicity, a lot of people calling Jeff a POS. I myself have demons, and I'm worried about him getting help. And he's also saying, until these people have to face their own demons, they'll never understand. And that's
great points.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So since we have a few more topics to cover, I don't want to run out of time here. We're at the 30-minute mark. So let's go ahead and jump into the 1993 Royal Rumble.
So I'll start the coverage on the 93 Royal Rumble. As a matter of fact, I have it playing in the background right now. Historical moments. Normally for the month of June, we would cover like Great American Bash, or we would cover King of the Ring, some other ones. But, somehow we got on the topic this week of Royal Rumbles and Royal Rumble 93. So Royal Rumble 93, what an event. Opening match, Beverly Brothers and Steiner Brothers. Hell of a contest. You finally saw Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty collide and clash after the barbershop incident, which, one of the best things from that match was when they were showing the highlights, and, Jannetty gets thrown through the window, and Bobby Heenan in the background on commentary starts screaming, oh, what an act of cowardice. Did you see Jannetty dive through the window trying to escape Shawn Michaels? Hilarious. If you never watched, all that stuff, Bobby Heenan, hilarious. You got to go back and watch it. Check it out. And of course, WWF title match, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, tremendous matchup. I thought there was a possibility at one point there during that run that he could really take that belt off of Bret, even if it was for a very short time. They were building him very quickly, pushing him very, very hard. Of course, Bret and Razor had a rematch later that year at King of the Ring in June of '93. We covered that last week on the historical moments. But another one too, Bam Bam Bigelow and the Big Boss Man match. People kind of shit on that match, but it was actually pretty good. Now, did Boss Man give his full effort knowing he was leaving and going to WCW? Probably not. but it was still a hell of a match. And then, of course, the Royal Rumble, just the list of the characters in that Royal Rumble alone was tremendous. One big notable point in that match, you had Mr. Perfect, you had Ric Flair. They were setting up a loser leaves town match for Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. Those two collided and clashed in that Royal Rumble. Flair had won the Rumble just 1 year before, becoming WWF champion. So there's a lot of different things that were going on there. Undertaker, of course, gets assaulted by the Giant Gonzalez, who makes his debut, coming in and beats up Undertaker, clears the ring. Really cool stuff. They build Giant Gonzalez as an 8-foot-tall wrestler. Jerry the King Lawler makes his WWF debut, coming in at the Royal Rumble. Although, if you read about it and you listen to a lot of them talk, everyone swears Jerry Lawler made his WWF debut at King of the Ring 93. Absolutely not true. His debut was at Royal Rumble 93. He was even a commentator with Vince on some other shows, Superstars, some other shows. So a lot of good things. Ultimately leading to the very first Royal Rumble, the very first time where the winner of the Rumble would receive a World Championship match at WrestleMania. Very first time they had done that. And, of course, Yokozuna would go on to win the Royal Rumble. Totally surprising everybody. I don't think at that time, you only had 4 pay-per-views a year at that time. And the last time you saw Yokozuna on pay-per-view prior to Royal Rumble 93 was at Survivor Series 92, where he basically squashed Virgil in a squash match that was like 3 minutes long. So the very next pay-per-view, he's winning the Royal Rumble and becoming the number 1 contender to the World Championship. I don't think anybody anticipated that. I really think everybody thought Macho Man Randy Savage would win that Royal Rumble, which Vince was very much against because Vince felt like Macho Man was too old. We've discussed that in length. So hell of an event. Great characters. And I think a lot of what's missing in today's wrestling, and even in sports entertainment, as you call it, is the characters. You don't have the characters. There's nothing wrong with having a prison guard go out and wrestle, and he's a prison guard. There's nothing wrong with having a garbage man, Duke the Dumpster Droese, going out and wrestling. There's nothing wrong with having a Giant Gonzalez or an Undertaker. The thing is, in the late 90s, you had mid to late 90s, you had WWE still had all these characters. You had the Undertaker, you had different ones that were characters, and then in WCW, you had guys run around by their names. You had like a Bill and a Scott and a Kevin and and an Arn and a Rick and and then on WWF you had an Undertaker, you had a Kane, you had a Mankind, so everybody wanted to get this great big push to go after what's realistic and what's real and stuff, and I think that's exactly what's missing today, and it really hurts the excitement point of view because sometimes you just want to see an Ultimate Warrior. I mean, think about it. That was the guy's name, Ultimate Warrior. Sometimes you want to see an Ultimate Warrior versus a Macho Man and not necessarily a Randy versus a Seth. So just throwing that out there. That's my historical moment, guys. Ace Mania, back to you.
Yeah, you're right. When I watched the pay-per-view, I actually enjoyed it. The one thing where you talked about like the Big Boss Man in Bam Bam, it was a good match. The only thing that I didn't really like about the match is that to me it felt like it was extremely one-sided because like you said, the Big Boss Man didn't put his whole effort into that match, and you could totally tell it was pretty much one-sided, and Bam Bam ended up winning the match. The Bret Hart and Razor Ramon match, that was an awesome match. I absolutely loved it. The one part that really stuck out in the Royal Rumble, and I mentioned this in the chat when we were talking about it, I said it was the first time I remember anybody trying to win a Royal Rumble by trying to pin the opponent. So when Macho was trying to pin Yokozuna and they got thrown over the top ropes because he was trying to pin him, I was like, that to me, I was like, that was funny. That was hilarious. But Yokozuna winning that match, I think it was definitely the right call because as you see going on, that Macho had this little feud going with the Repo Man, which I thought was actually a good little feud going on there. So overall, I thought the pay-per-view was really, really good. I love the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty match, especially because it was for the Intercontinental title. To me, I feel like it could have gone either way. I know a lot of people would say, you know what, it was the right call giving it to Sean. I'm like, yeah, but you could have given it to Marty Jannetty too. So you could have gone either way in that match.
Which they did. They did give it to Marty on Monday Night Raw, which ultimately is what led to Diesel coming to WWF and becoming the bodyguard for Shawn, is because on Monday Night Raw, Marty did take the Intercontinental title off Shawn right after that time period. And then, of course, Shawn ends up winning it back once Diesel comes through. On that same token, let me ask this real quick question that's kind of along the whole thing, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this afterwards. But what is your favorite? You only get one. It's got to be really quick. What is your favorite Hulk Hogan match, Ace?
Oh boy, he's been in a lot. My favorite Hulk Hogan match. I got to go with Andre the Giant.
Okay, Big B.
Yeah, I gotta go Giant.
Okay, Marlo.
Hey man, the way y'all describing, I was only 2 for that Rumble. So in my generation, I gotta say Hogan and Rock, man. I absolutely love that.
So,
match.
I like that one too.
So my favorite match of all time with Hulk Hogan was a match where he basically got squashed. King of the Ring '93, Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna. Ultimately, Yokozuna would have been, and then Banzai dropped him. And then after Banzai dropped him, he draped an American flag over him like he was a soldier. It signified that Hogan was gone, or Hulkamania was dead, basically, is what it signified. That was my favorite match of all time. So ultimately, the reason I bring that up and the reason I ask it is because, this was all kind of leading to Hogan was gone, Hogan was out, Hogan was done.
Mm-hmm.
And here they are pushing Yokozuna and they're pushing Bret Hart as the 2 number 1 wrestlers in WWF. And Hogan decides, you know what? I think I'll come back for one more WrestleMania. And then while I'm back for that one more WrestleMania, I think I'll win the WWF title while I'm there. So here goes Hogan. Bret drops it to Yoko in the main event of WrestleMania. Then they ended up putting it on Hogan like a minute and a half later. Hogan takes the title, holds it for 3 months, never defends it for like 90-something days until King of the Ring in June, which we discussed this last week because we just had that in a historical moment where Hogan, they basically created the King of the Ring pay-per-view for Hogan to drop the belt to Yoko in the U.S. And, it was a lot of different shady stuff going on. But ultimately, that's the reason I asked that is because all that started around the Royal Rumble 93. And if it wasn't for Hogan coming back and it wasn't for all these different things going to happen, you may not have ever seen that Hulk Hogan return in early 93. And you may not have ever even seen Yoko as a champion. Yoko was a phenomenal champion, 2-time WWF champion, rest his soul. Great, great guy from every account I've ever heard. I'm very good friends with one of his cousins, Mr. Ellie Smooth, who's in the chat. And I've never heard anything bad about the guy as a person. And the guy is a talent, tremendous. So, but that's why I asked that to kind of bring everything, into the center of the different things going on. And I had no idea that you were only a little kid during the Royal Rumble 93, but it's great to have a different perspective. And WrestleMania 18 was super cool too.
Hey,
Hogan and Rock.
I was a big Rock fan, man. So the Hogan and Rock thing, and that's one thing I do gotta say wrestling is missing. And like how you said with characters, man.
Yeah.
I was in tears. The fans were booing The Rock, and Hogan just ran through an ambulance with him in it. I'm thinking they killed The Rock. They killed him. That's the stuff I miss about wrestling. Those are the things that makes that investment.
You guys don't remember what he's talking about. Hogan.
Oh, no, I do. I remember.
18-wheeler. Well, but for the fans in the chats, Hogan drove an 18-wheeler into the side of an ambulance that The Rock was supposed
beat him with a belt and everything, man.
But that was after they attacked him in the ring, and then Hogan hit him in the head with a hammer that they got from underneath the ring, and then they stretchered him off, put him in the ambulance, and then
that was the same night that they did the one match ordeal. I mean, that junk was crazy.
His reaction to the Rock getting booed at WrestleMania was just like us when Hogan
switched the roles.
Went to NWO. I mean, everybody was booing Hogan. It's just like, oh my god. But Will, when you're talking about Rumble and then leading up to WrestleMania, was that the one where Hogan had the big black eye, or am I thinking
Yeah.
of a different WrestleMania?
Yeah, it was that one.
Wasn't Hogan and Beefcake supposed to win the tag titles, and they changed it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
he ended up doing the world championship. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this, but people can tell you this, especially people that were in the business at the time. From that point on, from WrestleMania on to King of the Ring, there was numerous tag team matches between Brutus and Hogan and Money Inc. Even though Hogan was the world champion at that point, they were out there having tag team matches with him and Brutus against Money Inc. because Hogan didn't want to drop or defend the title between WrestleMania 9 and King of the Ring. So it's extremely well documented. And of course, a lot of people have been stripped of titles for much less than that because supposedly got to defend them every 30 days. But, that doesn't work for him, brother.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Or Brock Lesnar. But also with the Royal Rumble, is Undertaker the only one to get thrown out by a guy that was not in the Royal Rumble?
Up until that point, but later on, it seemed to happen forever. Like in 2005, Kurt Angle just randomly came in and eliminated Shawn Michaels, and nobody could understand what the hell happened.
Oh, I did forget that one. Okay.
There was some times later on.
Taker was untouchable at that time too.
Oh yeah.
Everyone used to get so pissed about how Taker wouldn't sell nothing or anything, and that's just his character, and that's what worked. And I remember, and I listened to a couple of podcasts recently, and Taker said he had so much heat when he first got there because Vince and them told him, you get slammed, you bounce right back up. You do this, it bounce right back up. Sell that every single time. And I just love the thing about character, man, just where you see the audience and they're thinking Taker is coming from The Walking Dead or something. Like you are really like thinking like there's something wrong with this man. And then when he discovered to roll his eyes in the back of his head, I will tell you to this day, people talk about Chucky, Freddy, Jason, all them. Taker was mine. I was terrified of this man. When he rolled his eyes in the back of his head and he did the Ministry of Darkness, or just when he like that old little cryptic thing where he had the crow and all that, that just freaked me out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have a few comments here. So Thomas Burnett saying first Rumble match that a heel won. And then Thomas Glenn is also saying were storylines better back then, and I was like, yeah, it is. And Thomas is saying Marty got fired again after the Rumble, and
he got in trouble.
Then Thomas is saying Hogan and Savage, that was his. Dragon Viper is also saying Hogan and Andre. So there's a lot of Hogan and Andre out there. And even Thomas is saying the Rock was back 2 weeks later after the ambulance attack. Yeah. So he was. It was like 2 weeks.
But here's the thing: we didn't know all the behind the scenes of these matches. That was the biggest thing. Like we watch wrestling in such a different way nowadays, and I think one of my best friends said it. Shout out to my guys from the PUWF. Like that. Like it's crazy. Like we all want to be Dave Meltzers now. It's not like we want to watch the matches anymore. Everybody feels like, oh, they're burying this. I can't like that. The stuff that we're talking about, storylines, are they better than what they are now? Yes, because the only reason is because back then fans didn't know what the backstage antics were. They didn't know what this stuff is. That's why when you saw The Undertaker, you really thought this man came out of a grave. Like there was these things that made that character just monumental, and honestly, there's only a select few nowadays, and they get bashed and pushed, and it's just like, what do you want from them? Like they're doing their best. Like you got social media and stuff like this. If I had to do like a Bray Wyatt character right now, first of all, I wouldn't even have a social media because I want people to believe when I come out to that ring. And I want people to be terrified of me when I come out to that ring. And those are the things that people have got to look at. Watch wrestling as a fan. Don't watch it as like you are, what's the best one? The Skip Bayless of WWE, the Skip Bayless of AEW, stuff like that. Guys, newsflash. They pick certain topics just so they can disagree on these things. It's not that they fully disagree on TV. Like I have seen proof on these things. Like it's just, you are trying to make an entertainment investment, and the fans just watch it. And when we talk about how toxic they are, they don't realize how much you go through when you are a wrestler. Ever. Nobody realizes how much you go through as a wrestler.
No,
So
you're right.
great points there.
Yep.
It's all about the viewing experience, and you may agree or disagree on this, Marlo, but we talked about probably 2 or 3 months ago, ratings wars. And a point that I made was ratings don't matter anymore. And the reason I say ratings don't matter anymore
Got DVR.
is because the DVR, but the way we view things as an audience and as a public anymore is not the Nielsen media rated households that we did in the 90s. So the Monday Night Wars in the 90s were basically all Nielsen media ratings. That stuff doesn't matter anymore because half the people now that view wrestling view it on YouTube or Hulu or different apps, and there's no way to gather ratings from that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Not playing at the exact same time the show's always aired. That's the biggest thing when they talk about, WWE lacked in ratings this week. It's DVR now. Like, is someone really going to sit through a whole 3-hour show? Like, honestly, I wish Raw would cut down to 2 hours again. Like, honestly, I wish it would happen. Like, I remember when they did it one-offs, like, it was something cool. Like a pay-per-view on just national TV. Like, those were special. And it's just like, man. I give them props to run a 3-hour show. Like, I remember when I was at the Monday Night Raw in Jacksonville. It is really hard to sit through a 3-hour show on TV. Like, you're not hearing the announcers. You're not hearing this stuff. You're hearing bumps and you're hearing the promos. That's all you're hearing. Like, you're sitting through these 3-hour events. And it's crazy. Like, those are the only thing that I say WWE's really got that lack of is you got to stop running the 3 hours. And especially with these injuries and stuff like that, it starts having that effect because there's only so much entertainment you can do in a TV show for 3 hours.
Right. Especially with the opportunity, with Peacock and the network and all that stuff.
Exactly. They could be doing so much premium shows out of that.
Yeah, you have a tremendous opportunity there. You can show a lot of talent on those streaming services where you don't necessarily have to have everybody in that 3-hour window. You really could cut the shows down to a 2-hour show. As a matter of fact, I remember probably the first 4 or 5 years, Monday Night Raw was only an hour show. And there was nothing wrong with that. You can go back and watch 1993, 1994, 1995 Monday Night Raws, and it was only an hour-long show. And you usually had about 2 decent matches, and then you had a lot of squash matches or enhancement talent matches, and it was a really good show. Now you find yourself fast-forwarding through as much as possible, and it's almost like you're fast-forwarding through the match just to get to the winner to say, oh, well, that's cool, so-and-so won, and this is how they won.
You're only picking your favorites nowadays, man. That's really all it is.
Absolutely.
But think of how they ran NWA. Like, I was watching a lot when they first brought the WWE Network because when I started wrestling, I like I said, like my visual, like how y'all saying Hulk and Andre, like with me as The Rock and stuff like that. Obviously, when I became a wrestler, I couldn't wrestle like The Rock. I'm not 6'7". I'm not that big or whatever. So I had to look at guys that were in my character. Even though Brad Armstrong and Tim Warner were way bigger than me, I could work that type of style because guess what? That's a guy, a body size guy, visual for mine. Leapfrog, up, drop kicks and stuff. I wish we could go back to winning a match with a sunset flip. Like, I wish that so badly. And when I first watched the NWA, they really did these fast-paced matches. Even the really credible guys that we talk about would still go only 5 minutes. And I remember when I asked a couple of bookers, I was like, why these matches go so quick? Because they want you to go to the shows to actually see the performances. Like, those were the things. So when WWE started getting those things where they were putting this on national TV repetitively, and that's one bad thing about them nowadays is they've been going on for so long. And that's one reason why people got invested in AEW. And now we're seeing all these indies and stuff like that. Like I said this from the beginning. Before COVID hit, indies were actually getting better than WWE, getting better than any wrestling that was going out. And then COVID hit, boom, you got forced back to watch WWE because guess what? They did something smart. they continue to keep going, regardless if there was no fans in the stands, which I'm sorry, me being a wrestler, I would not have done it because that is basically what we call training. That is not of adrenaline like you keep going consistent with that. Kudos to them on that. And of course the ratings went higher because guess what? Nobody was doing these things. You were watching this just to have something new on your TV, which was smart. Now we're back to this genre. Yes, the ratings are going to drop because guess what? Gas bills are going high. Yeah, a lot of people ain't gonna be able to pay the gas bills to go to these events anymore. And obviously you're gonna have to get these stage revenues a lot higher as well. So it's gonna take effect to your events and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just we're pissing on WWE and not want to watch this product. It's life things are going around and it's causing everything. If anybody don't realize, MLB price ranges have went a little bit outrageous in some stadiums. Like it's just these things and it's just so many fans pick on so many things and think that they got to be right about every freaking.
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Back to you, Ace.
Yeah, I was gonna say before
Sorry
we no, it's fine. So before we run out of time, there was one really important topic that I was looking forward to just talking about, and it's we want to pick and decide what our favorite pay-per-view was. That was kind of the last topic that I kind of wanted to touch on really quick. So Big B, I'll go with you. What was your all-time favorite pay-per-view?
Now, are we talking just the one, like WrestleMania 1, or are we just talking like WrestleMania all of them?
Well, yeah. So, like, if your favorite one was like WrestleMania 3, you'd be like, "Oh, my favorite pay per view was WrestleMania 3." You know, whatever your favorite.
No, because it actually is WrestleMania 3. I mean,
Okay.
Hogan, Giant, Steamboat, Steamboat Savage. I mean, that right there to me, I'll watch that over and over again, not get sick of it. So yeah, WrestleMania 3 is by far my favorite.
All right, Warren.
Here I go back to being that young kid. WrestleMania 17, man. The card from head to toe was just outrageous. Outrageous. Rock and Austin, thank you for the house. That's all you can say about that one. My gosh.
But every time The Rock and Austin wrestled at WrestleMania, it was good. Like, it was always such a good match. And Rock finally got his win over Austin.
That was the craziest thing. Like, I didn't realize Rock never beat Austin at WrestleMania. Then when he came back as the Hollywood gimmick and he said, "I never beat that bald guy," I'm like, hold on, how many times y'all wrestled? Oh my gosh, yeah, that's true. Even though Vince caused him to lose and then Rock tried to cheat on that first one. And I'm like, dang, that is right. They are the two iconic in the Attitude. Actually, in a whole, those two probably would stand out more than anybody when it comes to that popularity because those guys just sold merch out of the rear. And it's like, dang, Rock really did not win. So, like, because my cousin, we used to imitate Rock and Austin. I would be Rock and he'd be Austin. He's like, well, obviously I got to win because Rock's never beaten. And it didn't hit me until I was like, oh, dang, that is true. That's the craziest thing with the greatest rivalry that he's never won.
So Thomas was saying Halloween Havoc 96. I was sitting at ringside, a very underrated Mysterio Malenko match to open the show.
Let me tell you on that comment there from Thomas. Halloween Havoc 96. I can't wait till we get the opportunity to cover that in our historical moments. What an event that was! What an absolute event! Main event: Macho Man versus Hollywood Hogan. After the match is over, Piper makes his WCW debut. What an absolute event. And Thomas specifically points out Rey Mysterio versus Eddie to open up the night. Hell of an event back then. I believe it was the Faces of Fear against the Outsiders as well for the tag belts. Hell of an event, guys. So great point. Great point, Thomas.
Outsiders versus Harlem Heat that night.
What's that?
It was Harlem Heat and the Outsiders for the titles.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. The Faces of Fear faced McMichael and Benoit. That's what they face.
So Roger Cooper saying WrestleMania 20 strictly for the Benoit crowning and Eddie moment.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was good. All right.
My
So
second
Will,
one's got to be when Eddie beat Brock. Just that moment, that one calculated for me.
So Will, what was your favorite pay-per-view?
Favorite pay-per-view of all time is SummerSlam 93. If I could only watch one pay-per-view ever again, it would be SummerSlam 93. The build-up, the absolute belief that Lex Luger was going to become the new Hulk Hogan, the body slam on the Intrepid, Luger slams Joko going into SummerSlam, Bret Hart on that card against Jerry Lawler for the undisputed King of the Ring championship. You know, they really put together a show. I mean, just that alone, and I know we're really short on time, but just that alone, before Jerry Lawler would face Bret Hart, the guy comes out on a pair of crutches, tells a story that he got injured saving a school bus full of children that had been in a car wreck, and when they were all done, he basically took them and bought them all lunch, and he's out there, he's got an ice pack on his knee, and so he sends Doink in to face Bret Hart instead, and I mean, what a hell of a match, and then of course you got Undertaker and you got Giant Gonzalez. That's where they finally concluded their feud there. A lot of great matches. Razor Ramon against the $1 Million Man opened up the night for matches, where that was $1 Million Man's last singles match in the ring against Razor Ramon. A lot of good stuff. Ludwig Borga, hell of a great character in the ring. IRS wrestling then 1-2-3 Kid. A lot of great stuff, guys. Check out SummerSlam 93. It's not even our historical moment on SummerSlam, but that is my favorite pay-per-view of all time, and I could watch it again right now.
All right, so Will, you're right. We are at that point now to where we have to go ahead and wrap up the show. So Big B, I'll go ahead and start with you and say any final thoughts.
No, thanks for our guests for joining us. Thanks for all the viewers joining us. Shout out to everybody. I love doing this show. We get a lot of interaction from us when Will lets us talk, and to the fans with all the comments they got in. Friday night, me and my son will actually be in attendance at SmackDown. First time I've been at WWE for a couple years, so I can't wait to see that. I'll definitely give you guys a little feed on what the crowd looked like, and so far it looks like it's going to be about 3/4 full from what I saw on the map when I bought my ticket. So definitely can't wait for it. My son's excited.
You know what though? I will say this really quick though for anybody who's like, oh, I get sick of Roman Reigns. Well, I'll tell you what. Why is it every time he's there, the tickets sell and the stadium is getting full every time he's there, and people go,
that attraction.
You're right. He's definitely got the dollars. And I said I've loved this character since day one. The fact is that they got all the titles right now. Is kind of like, okay, we need to change something up. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying though. The point that I'm making is people are like, I don't like him. I'm not going to watch. And then he appears, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden people start buying tickets. Like, oh, look at that. Roman Reigns.
You've got to acknowledge him.
Oh, absolutely.
No pun intended.
It won't happen. It won't happen. But I'm saying, wouldn't that be the ultimate swerve? Where we're watching like Friday night and Riddle wins, and we're all like, wait, what the heck just happened? Like it would be the most. No, it won't happen. But I'm saying that would be like the craziest ultimate swerve.
The greatest moment of all time for Dragon Viper if Riddle wins.
Right, absolutely. So,
a big Riddle fan.
No, he's not. So, any final thoughts for you?
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. This is awesome. I know I've owed you big time. I was supposed to have been on the WrestleMania. I still apologize on that one. But, yeah, guys, this has been an absolute blast. I'm looking forward to the Roman Reigns and Riddle match. I was, like Dragon Viper, I was not a Riddle fan at all. Like I always say, man, I'm old school. I don't like the barefoot look. It just did not fit him in ways, and he's grown up on me. Like, he is really – I never thought I would cheer for a guy that has fingernail polish and toenail polish. But he's that guy, and look out. Riddle's going to be one of those guys that's going to be one of the main eventers eventually. Not now, but pretty soon.
Pretty soon he will be. And Thomas is saying Riddle winning would be the swerve of all swerves. It definitely would
That'd be a good screw job.
It
You would think it's a botch if that's the case.
It would be a crazy swerve. All right. So, Will, any final thoughts?
Yeah, a couple final thoughts. Number one, I want to make sure I cover this comment before we get out of here. Thomas Glenn, the chief, he runs Thoughts Count Anywhere on Saturdays at noon. We broadcast it over on TRC. He actually commented that he was at WrestleMania 1 in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
If you can imagine that. So, humongous shout out to the chief. Great guy. Nothing but endless respect to the chief. Next thing, too, huge thank you to all my guys, my supporters, my team, my members over in Top Rope Collectibles. Hell of a great sale tonight. Always a great sale. In the past week, believe it or not, because of so much stuff going on, it's summertime, kids are out of school, we've ran live 4 times in the past 1 week since last Tuesday. Normally we would run once a week, but we're trying different things to get some different members involved at different times. And, we definitely bring the best stuff we possibly can, the best prices, the just best merchandise. We do a lot of the traveling ourselves. We go all over the place getting this stuff signed. We do a lot of private signings, doing different things. So we love doing it. I love my job, love my team, love my group. So huge shout out to those guys. Huge shout out to Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Hell of a good time. I love, we've talked about this for so long. We want to get more people in here and get interactive. So thank you, Marlo, for joining us. Yeah. Crispy Bacon behind the scenes. Huge shout out to Crispy Bacon, guys. If it wasn't for Crispy, we couldn't do this, and the guy's awesome. He's phenomenal. Big B, you and I didn't get to spar this week that much because me and Marlo kind of took up all the time talking, but a hell of a great show, hell of a great time. We covered some super important stuff tonight, some really important facts. Talking about mental health awareness, you can never talk about it enough. Talking about addictions and how to get help and things like that, you can never talk about that stuff enough. So, really enjoyed it. Ace of Mania. Really appreciate it, brother. Back to you.
No problem. And yes, Warren, I'm finally glad we got you on here. You owed me one forever. And finally was able to finagle you in on the show. So
I had you today. I promise.
my request is to get the chief on. I want the chief on. Call the chief out.
So of course, anytime you're interested again, Warren, just reach out to me,
guys.
And we'll make it work. So, all right. So we definitely want to thank all of our viewers. I want to thank Warren for hopping on. Big B, thank you very much. Will, thank you very much. Crispy Bacon, thank you very much. And with that, all of our viewers, you'll see us again next Tuesday for another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. And Sunday, you can actually catch us right here for Between the Ropes. So, all right, with that, everybody have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next Tuesday.